Ready, set, more. Let's search for clues and find the treasure.
There's something magical about working on a large project. When you give up so much time, attention, and effort on an endeavor, it's not a stretch to say that you've birthed something very real. Add in the collaborative dynamic, and that means sharing something very powerful with dozens of other people. When I page through the drawings, hear the music, and see the characters, I catch glimpses of the people I met with, hallways I walked down, and emotions I felt over the months of development. I could go on, but I'll save my thoughts about this for another project exploration. It is with this powerful sentiment in mind that I'd like to share a brief case study of Ready, Set, More. Ready, Set, More is a web series about a family of 4 that was made for Child Evangelism Fellowship's Unite TV. I was heavily involved at the beginning of the project, and I'd like to share about the character design process. One of the initial design objectives was to use strong geometric shapes to guide the appearance of the characters. The idea of super simplified characters was cute, but the team wasn't crazy about this direction, so I pushed the designs into the kind of classical style that you see in television animation. We were still early into pre-production, so I had the help of my art director, Philip Neves, to carefully work out aesthetic details for Emma, one of our favorite characters, and the time was very well spent. As her sketch got worked up into the final design, I believe this was one of the most appealing characters I've ever worked on. The character development process was fruitful but indulgent. Many weeks were burned up getting the characters up to speed, and I was starting to feel the pressure to get the project into production. I carried Emma's design conventions into the other characters and began creating layered vector art in adobeanimate. I set up the characters as single-view, 3/4 front pose rigs instead of rigging up 360-degree rigs or multi-view rigs. Final designs were finally ready to move from adobeanimate to moho. I was a moho newbie, so I started learning how to import SVGs, smartbone actions, and rigging controls. I was in the process of transitioning my rigging flow from adobeanimate to moho, and it was a real mind-bender. The Amelia character helped me figure out the rigging recipe that I wanted to use for the rest of the cast. When I organized the rigging concerns into 2 main categories, things fell into place much faster. I decided to work on facial controls and body mechanics separately for each character, and of course, built out similar controls for everyone, except the dog. The human characters were coming along, but I forgot about the 5th member of the family, Pickle the dog. His designs were based on a very specific breed of dog, so thankfully developing that was pretty straightforward. There were some rough spots with the facial controls and the body mechanics, where there was creasing here and there and other issues, but for the most part, the characters were fully rigged up and ready to go. We finally began scene creation in moho, and it was at this point the reality and the burden of the scope of the project became clear. I learned a lot about the moho production pipeline, but the scope of the project ended up being a little too much for our small internal team. In the end, the final production was outsourced to another shop. That studio did a beautiful job carrying the project to the finish line and were faithful to the team's original vision. I'm so glad to have been a part of this ambitious project.